we'll get started.
All righty. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this month, our August edition of Healthy Living Chit Chat. I am Jajan Pak, the project specialist for the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. Welcome, everybody, for this, what proves going to be a really good and thoughtful and engaging and learning experience all about mindfulness. Which I was mentioning to our presenter and Christine earlier. I'm really looking forward to it because I think I really need it. So, or need a refresher. So, as usual, for our chit chat, for our presentation piece, we're going to ask that everyone stay muted while we listen to our presenter. There will be time for Q&A afterwards, or as she asks questions. Throughout. If you need captioning, you can hit the captioning button on the bottom of your screen with a little CC logo. Again, on behalf of the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, who is a proud recipient of support from the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities, I think that's all our welcoming information and kind of housekeeping tips. So I will turn it over, introduce our presenter, Jessica Hinman from UIC, who will present us on mindfulness. So Jessica, take it away.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I think I saw some of you all at the rally a few weeks ago. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces, or some familiar names, I suppose, popping up on the Zoom. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Like Jajan said, I will be chatting with you all about mindfulness this morning. I would love this to be as interactive as possible. I'll be facilitating some different exercises or activities. And when I say exercises, I promise I don't mean going for a long run or anything like that. They'll be hopefully pretty easy and meditative. And, you should be able to do them wherever you are. As long as you're in a comfortable place and can hear my voice, you should be good to go. I might be asking questions along the way, so feel free to unmute yourself and answer those questions, or type them in the chat, whatever is easiest for you. Like I said, I want this to be interactive. I want to know what you know about mindfulness and kind of take it from there. So welcome. We'll go ahead and dive in. And if anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to shoot me a message. I don't think I can see the raise hand thing, but you might pop up on the top. So hopefully I'll catch up there. So feel free to try and get my attention by any means possible if necessary. So we will go ahead and dive in. But before we do, I do want to start with a mindful breathing activity. Who here has done mindful breathing before, by a show of hands? Okay, so a few. All right, awesome, wonderful. I'm a big fan of mindful breathing. Luckily, this is something that you can do anytime, anywhere, no matter what's going on, whether you're just trying to calm down and relax a little bit, or you just kind of want to take some big, deep breaths in the moment. So we'll go ahead and begin here. And what I'd like everybody to do is, if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. If you don't want to, that's okay. You can kind of just gaze off out in front of you. But I want you to begin by bringing your attention to your breathing. And simply just follow the air as it comes in through your nostrils, goes down to the bottom of your lungs, and then try and follow that breath as it comes back out again. See if you can follow the air as if you're riding the waves of your breath. In and out, in and out. And really try and notice the air moving in and out of your nostrils. See if you can feel it being slightly warmer as it comes out, maybe a little bit cooler as you breathe in. And maybe try and notice the gentle rise and fall of your rib cage as you take those breaths. If you can feel it expanding and contracting as you take those breaths. And then direct your attention to your stomach. See if you can notice the gentle rise and fall of your stomach as you breathe in and out. And whether it's your chest moving in and out or your stomach, try and direct your attention to one of those two areas, whichever spot felt more comfortable. And really keep your attention on this spot, noticing the movement in and out as you breathe. And just keep taking some of those nice big deep breaths. And whatever thoughts, images, feelings, or memories might pop up, whether they be comfortable or uncomfortable, just simply acknowledge them and allow them to be there. Let them come and go as they please, and just try and keep your attention on your breath. From time to time, you might notice your attention starting to wander. And when this happens, just notice that it's happening. Try and notice whatever distracted you, and then bring your attention back to your breath. There's no need to feel frustrated or impatient or disappointed when you start to get carried off by your thoughts. Our minds kind of just naturally wander and trying to distract us from what we're doing. So when you notice that your attentions wander, just gently acknowledge it and bring it back. And no matter how often your attention wanders, just continue to acknowledge it, note what distracted you, and keep on focusing on your breath. So go ahead and take about 5 more big deep breaths. When you're ready, go ahead and bring yourself back to the room, back to the group, and open your eyes back up if you close them. Wonderful. All right, so how's everyone feeling after that?
Good.
Good? All right.
Mhm.
Good. Wonderful. Yeah, and like I said, mindful breathing is a really wonderful activity that you can do anytime, anywhere. You can kind of modify it to meet the needs that you have in the moment. Yeah, it's a really nice thing to do. You can do it with music while you're watching TV, anytime, any place. So let's go ahead and start talking about mindfulness, our topic for today. So, if we go ahead and jump in, so who here has heard about mindfulness before, by a show of hands? You've maybe just seen the word, maybe you've heard about it on TV. Okay, so a few people. Has anyone here practiced mindfulness before? A little bit. Okay, some hands. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. It's perfect. And does anyone practice mindfulness as part of their daily life? Like every day? Okay, Adam says yes. Wonderful. Great. I'm glad to hear that. That's really cool. Tara's hand is raised. Yay. Okay, yeah, so that's really cool. And it's really neat to see that, some people maybe never heard of it before. That's okay. Some people practice it every day. And, the thing with mindfulness that I'm going to keep coming back to is that mindfulness is a practice. It's something that we practice, right? Similar with what we say about yoga, we practice yoga. You're not a master of mindfulness, although I wish I could be. I'm not. It's just a continuous learning experience. Some days it's going to be a lot easier than others to practice mindfulness or be in the present. And some days it's going to be really challenging depending on what's going on. So what we're going to do today is really just talk about what mindfulness is and hopefully find some different ways that you can practice mindfulness within your daily life. So if we're looking at mindfulness, let me see. I don't know. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. It said paused and I didn't know why for a moment. Perfect. So if we're
Jessica, this is Christine. I've had one person say that they couldn't see your screen. So I just want to do a quick check and make sure. Can everybody see Jessica's screen? All right. So the person who had reached out said they can see it now. So, all right. Thank you.
So sorry about that. It said paused and I don't know why. Zoom does funky things. Wonderful. I'm glad everyone can see it now. So like I said, let's jump into mindfulness. So when we're thinking about mindfulness and what it is, we kind of have these two different sides. right? We have this picture here where we have two people, they're walking through what looks like a park, let's say. There's flowers on the side, there's a sunshine on the top, and this person on the left, their mind looks pretty full. So they're kind of this left side, the mind is full. There's lots going on in there, right? They're thinking about other people, their to-do list I see in there. There's cars, bills, I would presume, money, all sorts of things going on, right? And this person's just trying to walk through this lovely park with whoever they're holding hands with. Whereas the person on the right side, their thought bubble is a complete replica of what is going on around them. So they're showing a little bit more mindfulness rather than their mind being full. And when we kind of set these two apart, that person on the left maybe is thinking about the past, worrying about the future, focusing on what's going on somewhere else. Yeah, a few people are saying, sounds like me too. Maybe you're sitting here going, what am I going to have for lunch today? And that's okay, because that's where my mind goes a lot of the times. Like I said before, our minds, they naturally wander. That's kind of how we've programmed them to work. We're so constantly doing so many things all the time that our brains are just used to going a million miles a minute, right? Thinking about our to-do list, our bills, everything. Whereas the person on the right side of the screen, who's a little bit more mindful, this person's aware of what's going on right here, right now, able to notice the colors of the flowers next to them. Maybe they can feel the temperature of the air on their skin, hearing the birds chirp, just very aware of what's going on. So when we're talking about being mindful, it's not necessarily, this idea of getting rid of everything, not thinking about anything. And I know that's sometimes a misconception or a myth related to mindfulness, that you have to just sit and do nothing and have no thoughts. And that's not necessarily true. It's actually taking in everything that's going on around and within us. So noticing how we're feeling, if we're feeling hungry or a little bit nervous, it's being aware of those things rather than trying to shut them out, and just focusing on what's going on right here, right now. Obviously, sometimes we do think about the past and we do think about the future. We have to, we're humans. That's how we learn, that's how we operate. But it's when we become really, really stuck in the past or the future, or the things that are going on somewhere else, and it, really distracts us from right here, right now, what we're doing. That's when we can get into a little bit of trouble. And that's why we practice the skill of mindfulness. So let's keep chatting about this amazing thing of mindfulness. Whoops. So if you're kind of thinking like, okay, I kind of get it, but I still don't really know, what is this mindfulness thing that she's talking about here? It's really being aware of and observing what's going on right here, right now, without trying to judge it, right? Maybe when you were completing that mindfulness activity, your mind maybe started to wander and you thought, oh, I got to bring it back. I can't get distracted right now. Why would I get distracted? I'm supposed to be in the present, right? Sometimes we have these thoughts and we're very quick to judge them. We're like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about that right now. I'm just trying to work. I'm trying to get my stuff done. Why do I keep thinking about that, right? How often do we have those thoughts that we think, oh, I shouldn't think that. I shouldn't feel that. And that's kind of, that can be a little hard on ourselves, not always the most patient thing that we're doing. But if we can just acknowledge that we're having those thoughts and feelings or experiences without judgment and just kind of let them be there, sometimes they pass a little bit more smoothly. So it's really just living in the moment, whatever that might consist of. So, question to you all, when does your mind begin to wander? When do you notice your thoughts and feelings really starting to distract you? Feel free to put in the chat or unmute. What situations make it hard to focus?
So this is Christine, and this is an opportunity for you to speak up and speak out. You can do that in a couple different ways. You can type it in using your chat box, or you can take yourself off of mute and do it that way. And so Curtis shared, he finds that his mind begins to wander when too many things are going on. Yes. And Molly, you wanted to say something?
When I'm at work.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm with you.
Anybody else want to speak up and speak out? When does
Jay
your
Jane
mind-
type something.
Okay.
Well, I know my mind wanders sometimes when I'm doing certain things at one time and stuff like that, and that my mind wander and be trying to focus on one thing at a time, and then something up come up and my mind starts wandering.
Thank you, Derek. And we had some other people share during long meetings, watching TV, or listening to podcasts. Someone else said, when I am triggered, and I know for myself, it's when I'm taking a long car ride.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all really great examples. Thanks everyone for sharing those things. And I mean, I have to agree with all of you, especially Molly. My mind, when I'm trying to work, is everywhere else other than where it needs to be. Sometimes I also don't help myself because sometimes I'm trying to work and listen to music or watch TV and have a conversation. And sometimes I'm eating my lunch while I'm working, and that doesn't often go as well as I hope it would. But yeah, sometimes our mind wanders when we're maybe in situations that aren't the most stimulating or fun or enjoyable, like those long meetings or those long car rides. Maybe when we're having a lot of emotions, when we're triggered, when we're feeling really anxious or upset or angry. Sometimes it's hard to stay focused on what we're doing because sometimes it feels like those thoughts and feelings are really, really consuming us. Or if we've had an experience that has elicited a lot of those emotions and feelings, it can be hard to kind of move on from it from time to time and, kind of focus on what we need to do. And I think Derek made a really great point too. When we're just trying to sometimes do one thing or maybe try and do a couple things at the same time, it can be really tricky, right? Like I said, and I'll say it probably 10 other times today, our brains, our society kind of works in this way where we're very used to doing 3, 5, 10 different things at the same time. And it might be, on purpose and intentional, but sometimes, like I said, it could be, we have the TV on when we're trying to work, or, our friends are doing something in the next room and we can overhear them. Or even like my watch just buzzed and I looked at it, we're just constantly, being demanded to put our attention in different places, and our brain is used to doing that, right? I was able to look at my watch, say, okay, I don't need to know news right now, and, make it go away and stay on track. But, our brains are used to doing that. But when we need them to focus on one thing, when we're doing a really hard work task, we're doing an interview, they're trying to focus on, a meeting or a lecture or something related to school, we want our brain to be focused on that one thing. Because if we don't, we might, mess up or forget things, and that can be a little tricky. So, it's kind of like, ugh, why does our brain then fail us when we're trying to do one thing at that very time? And we just kind of have to help it, almost relearn to do one thing at a time. And that's what we'll keep talking about today. So I promise your screen's not broken. This will be the image that'll be up for the rest of the time, just so it's aesthetically pleasing. And I'm just going to kind of talk through some other things for the rest of our time together. So I want to do another mindfulness activity with you all. And it looks like some of you are at home or in an office, in places that you maybe spend a lot of time. So what I'd like everyone to do is just wherever you're sitting, don't feel the need to get up and go get something, but wherever you are, just try and find something nearby that you can hold within your hand. So for me, I found this pen. So just try and find something that you can very easily, hold out in front of you. It can be a pen, a cell phone, a watch, or maybe an extra mask you have in your pocket. Like I said, don't feel the need to get up and go get something if you don't have anything. Just try and find something nearby that you can hold. Chapstick works, closed water bottle, whatever it might be. So I see a few people moved, so hopefully everyone has something. But once you have this thing, I want you to just hold it in your hand. Easiest instruction ever. Just kind of hold it there with you. And then go ahead and close your eyes for this one while you're holding this object in your hand. Get comfortable, Make sure that you're comfy, feet are on the floor, maybe your arms are uncrossed. Just get comfortable. And again, take a few of those big mindful deep breaths that we did at the very beginning. Breathing in slowly through your nose, releasing your breath through your mouth. Try not to force these breaths, but just let them come naturally. Now, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to direct all of your attention to that object that's in your hand. I want you to feel the object all over. Try and notice its size, its texture. Maybe you can feel little bumps, or maybe it's smooth in your hand. Maybe hold it in one hand and see if it feels heavy or if it feels light. And just see what other things you can notice with your eyes closed. Then go ahead and take 3 more big deep breaths and then open your eyes back up when you're ready. All right, good stuff. Perfect. All right, would anyone like to share their experience? Did you notice anything about the object in your hands that you hadn't noticed before? Were you able to kind of identify any of those features?
Yeah, this is Jay Jen. I picked up a little kind of a square paperweight that I had on my desk, and I was just kind of examining it and feeling it. I could tell, like, I noticed the sharp corners, the weight of it. It's a lot heavier than I actually thought or it looked like. And there's a saying on that's put on one side, and I just spent time feeling my thumb over it, just feeling the different shapes and cutouts of the letters and how things are, and actually kind of felt pretty neat. And I also noticed how, as I was holding it longer, I think it's made of metal of something, just noticing the temperature change as the longer I held it, the warmer it got. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's neat. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else want to share their experience?
I was holding a pen and it felt really comfortable. You know, it felt like I could hold on to something that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. You know, probably you may have reached out for something that was familiar, comfortable that you felt before. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Adam. Anyone else?
It felt like a light object that I had in my hand.
Okay, so you're able to notice it felt light. Nice. Okay. Cool. And anyone can answer this question. How did it feel to just really focus 100% on the thing that was in your hand, whether it be a paperweight or a pen or a remote, a cell phone? What was that experience like to just really feel that thing and just try and notice things about it? What was that like? And I won't be offended if you say, that was weird. It was really strange. I don't want to do that again. That's also okay.
This is Christine, and as I was focusing on the object, it seemed as though my hearing got sharper. So I was focused on that, but then I was hearing more things, whether it was people moving around or a fan that's going. So I don't know, maybe my mind is full.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone else?
And as a reminder, you are welcome to speak up and speak out in a couple different ways, either typing it into the chat box and we will share it with everyone, or if you would like to take yourself off of mute and share using your words that way, we welcome both ways.
Hi, this is Jae-Jun again. I think what was interesting is a little bit different from Christine's experience. When I was focusing on my object, I kind of then kind of a narrowing of my focus and kind of, in a weird way, not noticing the noises from outside my window and things. And that was kind of, when I think back on it, it felt kind of weird, but yeah.
Neat. Really cool reflections. Yeah, so the reason why I did this activity, like I said, is it's us kind of forcing our brain to focus on one thing at a time. And I think it's really neat too that Jae-Jin and Christine had these such different experiences. And it really shows that like all of our brains just kind of work a little bit differently. Sometimes we take in different things in certain situations that others might not, and that's okay. That's what is to be expected. All of our brains are very, very different, and just, you know, take things, yeah, they're cool brains. We love to see it. But, you know, for some of us, maybe we really honed in really, really specifically on that thing. And for others, maybe we started to take in other external, you know, sounds, sights, or whatever it might have been. And that's also okay. And it might have felt a little weird. It might have felt a little funky to do that, to do this activity, to really focus on, okay, I use this pen all the time. I know what it feels like. I know that it's light in my hand. I know the little different bumps on it. What do you mean? So maybe it did feel a little strange to have that interaction with this thing. And really, you know, I know this is kind of maybe a different example, a little bit goofy to, you know, do it with a pen or a cell phone or whatever it might be, but we can also do this with anything else that we're doing in our lives. It might be at work, it might be at school, at home, wherever we're interacting. You know, we can take something and focus all of our attention onto it. So, you know, let's just say maybe you're at home making lunch, making dinner, and you're really stuck on kind of the work day. Maybe it wasn't the best day, and you're kind of thinking back to like, oh man, you know, I wish I would have done this, or this didn't go the best, and man, I just kind of had a bad day, and I'm really stuck on it. And, you know, if we're not paying attention while we're cooking, we might burn our meal, and that's a big bummer. We don't want to do that. So maybe in that moment, if we notice our minds really starting to wander, you know, maybe you just really focus on, you know, listening to the water boil if you're making spaghetti, and just try and hear the sounds of the water boiling, really hone in on it. Or maybe, you know, if you're making something that smells really good, just close your eyes for a moment and try and really notice all the different smells that are there that you can take in, or sights, you know, whatever might be helpful for you. Obviously, don't close your eyes if your food's going to burn, because that would be a whole other problem that I don't want to create for you. But, you know, we can do the same thing that we just did with this simple, you know, pen or phone or whatever it might have been in your hand, whenever we're starting to notice that we're becoming distracted, and kind of hone in our attention. And, you know, sometimes if we're working and trying to do a bunch of things and we notice our mind wandering to, you know, whatever it might be, you know, maybe just taking that moment to kind of reset a little bit, you know, grab a pen, grab your cell phone, something at work, and focus on it, and then kind of keep doing whatever it is that you need to be doing. And maybe that can kind of reset you moving forward. Again, it's just this process of kind of reteaching our brain to be in the here and the now, and noticing everything that's going on around us, right? There's lots of things that are always going on around us. And like I said, it could be, you know, like for instance, right now, obviously I'm in your present, you hear my voice, you see my face, maybe you see the video up on your screen. Maybe you can hear people in the hallway walking around, or the fan, or someone else's TV. You know, lots of stuff going on around. You could probably observe it for the entire day and not run out. But we also have a lot of things that are going on inside of us that also sometimes require a little bit of attention, because they also sometimes make our mind wander. like I said, it can be things like feeling hungry, maybe feeling hurt, like having some pain somewhere in our body. It could also be things that, only we experience, like our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, anything like that. And those can become a little bit distracting as well. Sometimes when we feel a little stressed, a little anxious, sometimes that makes our mind, unfortunately, wander back to those things. And it can be really hard to stay focused. And that's why we keep doing these mindfulness practices, because, when those thoughts become really, really loud, we got to say, hey, brain, let's focus right here. I acknowledge that those thoughts and feelings are there, and I'm glad that they're there. Thank you. But I got to focus. And sometimes we actually have to tell our brains those things. There's a silly technique, as silly as it might be, but maybe you need to name your brain. I call mine Sheila. My brain's name is Sheila. And sometimes I say, hey, Sheila, I'm really trying to get work done. I need you to quiet down. Because sometimes it becomes really loud. And I know it sounds super silly, but sometimes, it feels a little bit good to say, like, hey, whoa, I need you to do what I need you to do. Like, let's get back on track. And that can be a little bit helpful. And if nothing else, hopefully it just gives you a giggle, and that's okay too. So I know we've talked a bit about mindfulness, and I kind of want to backtrack and make sure that I emphasize the importance of mindfulness. For those of you who have done mindfulness, maybe you've experienced this or heard of it or read it. But, being mindful obviously improves our concentration, helps us to stay focused when we're focusing on the here and the now. It might also help us sleep a little bit better. I know for myself, man, my thoughts are the loudest at night when I'm trying to fall asleep. I might be super, super tired, but it's when I'm sitting in bed that all of those thoughts are bouncing off the walls. So if we can do a little mindfulness before bed, it can kind of help us settle down a little bit easier at night. It's also good for our health. There's been a lot of research that has shown mindfulness is good for your immune system and helps you from getting sick, which, with everything going on right now, is definitely an added bonus. And it improves memory because you're kind of focusing on everything that's going on around us. And I know for me, I'm the most forgetful person, period. And, when I practice mindfulness, it helps me stay on top of a lot of things. I give you a perfect example of it's good for memory. A few weeks ago, I was not being mindful. I had so much going on. I had a flight to catch and I went to the wrong airport. I was supposed to go to Midway and I showed up at O'Hare 2 hours early. So it just goes to show sometimes when we're not mindful, we miss those little details, don't remember where we're supposed to go, where we're supposed to be. And luckily I was able to switch my flight, but just an example of what happens when we're not mindful. It also kind of helps us understand which thoughts and feelings are real versus which ones are just thoughts and feelings, right? Sometimes we get really caught up in those thoughts. We might be thinking, what if I did this instead? Or I just can't do this, or if only I could blah, 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 or I should be this, that's a lot of thoughts. They get really cloudy sometimes, and sometimes they make us feel a little bit foggy when we're hearing all these things within our mind. And if we can be a little bit more mindful and slow down, we can kind of take that step back. And like I said, sometimes we have to yell at our brain and say, like, those are just thoughts. They're just thoughts. They're just kind of words that I'm thinking in my head. They feel really real, and they are, but let me take a step back and see what's really going on. And we can really just observe them for what they are, is, kind of just thoughts, and make them a little bit less controlling. Another reason why, mindfulness is great is it helps us, really focus and enjoy what's going on right in front of us, right here, right now. How many times have you been hanging out with a friend or a family member at a birthday party or a really fun place or activity, and you're just thinking about something that maybe happened at work, or something that's going on with your friends, and you can't really enjoy that birthday party or spending time with that person because you're so focused on something else. Sometimes when we're not being super mindful, we miss out on the really cool stuff, the things that we enjoy, the things and people that we love. Mindfulness also helps us appreciate the things that are going on right here, right now, so we don't miss them. And, I've really tried lots and lots of times. I've really tried to find a magic wand. But as much as thinking about the past and the future, we can't change them. Like I said, I wish I had a magic wand that could change the past or the future. Unfortunately, I can't find it still. I'm still looking. But sadly, worrying about and thinking about those things doesn't end up changing them. The only thing that we can really end up changing is how we interact and move forward, and how we continue to work on the things that are really important to us and that we care about. And that can only be done in the present moment. It can't be done when we're thinking about the past or the future. But if we can still do the things that we care about in the present, we can kind of keep moving forward. And another really cool thing about mindfulness is it helps us have a greater appreciation and patience for ourselves and the things that we do, the things that we can accomplish and achieve, and the things that we care about. And I think one of maybe my favorite things about mindfulness, other than improving memory, obviously, is that it really allows us to be gentle with ourselves, right? When we're observing that we're having those thoughts that are wandering or interfering or feel really loud, and maybe we just wish would go away. If we're able to just notice them and allow them to be there without judging them, we can be more gentle and kind to ourselves. And that's a really big part of mindfulness, is this idea of loving kindness. And you might sometimes think, yeah, maybe I'm not the most kind and gentle to my brain, to my mind when I'm having certain thoughts. Maybe I kind of judge those thoughts of like, oh, I just wish I wouldn't think that way, or I wish I didn't feel like this. Well, sometimes we're human and sometimes we feel and think those things for certain reasons, and they can be, maybe a little bit obnoxious to have in certain times or places, but they're just kind of part of being human. They're there. And oftentimes we practice this idea of loving kindness towards other people, but we can also practice it towards ourselves, which is something that we don't always do, right? Sometimes we have to take that moment to show loving kindness and compassion to our brain, to our mind, to ourself, to our body, so that we can really kind of allow it to function with greater acceptance. And it helps us, see more clearly, helps us not get caught up in every single thought and feeling and emotion and reacting to them. And it kind of allows us to just slow down. So what I'd like everyone to do now is just, sit wherever you are and get comfortable again. I know it sounds kind of silly to always get comfortable and get ready, but just get in a position that feels comfy to you. Again, listen to your body, make any adjustments that you need to get comfortable. Close your eyes if you feel like you want to. And then again, just kind of take some more of those mindful breaths that we've been practicing. Bring that attention to your breath. And now I want you to try and open yourself up to all of your thoughts that you have right now. Keeping your awareness of your breath as your anchor, I just want you to notice when a thought arises. It can be thoughts about work, about home, about chores, to-do list. But when those thoughts start to pop up, you might want to label it or kind of acknowledge it in a certain way. But instead of doing that, I want you to just respond to it with gentleness. Whether that thought is pleasant or unpleasant or just neutral, try and bring some practice to your thinking mind. Just acknowledge that your mind is just thinking. These thoughts are just coming about. And when a thought arises, offer a phrase of loving kindness towards your mind and to that thought. Maybe say something like, may I be at ease with my mind. May I be at ease with this thought. Or thinking mind, gentle mind. So maybe pick one of those phrases and just continue to repeat it to yourself as you breathe mindfully. And see if you can allow any and all thoughts to just be there and acknowledge your beautiful and hardworking mind as it works. Take a few more moments to say this phrase to yourself and take some of those mindful breaths. ready, go ahead and open your eyes back up and slowly return to our group. Right. How's everyone feeling after that activity? I know it's a little bit strange, a little bit different to talk to your mind. Did anyone notice any thoughts coming up during that time? Was their mind a little bit quieter, or was it still pretty busy?
This is Christine, and something that I've noticed when I am on Zoom or on meetings and I'm using my earbuds plugged in, I can hear myself inhaling and exhaling more. And that's something that really popped into my head, that I'm really aware that I can not only feel it, but I can hear it as well.
Neat. Yeah, I've had that experience too, where I know like whenever I have headphones and I can hear myself chewing and it sounds so loud if I have something crunchy. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Okay, anyone else?
I felt more quiet. My
Oh.
brain was feeling more quiet and relaxed.
Good. Love to hear it. Yeah. It's sometimes amazing when we can get our mind to that point where it is a little bit more quiet and we can, be a little bit more patient with it sometimes. And, sometimes it's nice too because we might think like, oh, my brain's quiet, I'm quiet, I'm still. But sometimes, even just telling ourselves like, hey, if I have a thought pop up that distracts me, it's okay. I'll just let it be. It'll pass. So sometimes it's nice to even prepare our brains for when those thoughts might come up, and allows us to be a little bit more patient. Yeah, neat. Wonderful. All right, well, we'll keep moving through then. So we've done a couple of different mindfulness activities, and we have one more that I have planned for the very end if we still have some time. But we've done a couple of different things, talked about couple different strategies that we can use. And I just want to reemphasize again that mindfulness is a practice. Practice makes progress. It doesn't make perfect. So we want to practice, practice, practice. And sometimes it can be even helpful to make a plan or have a mindfulness buddy to help keep you accountable. Maybe say like, hey, I'm going to spend 30 seconds a day doing mindfulness, or maybe I'm going to do 5 minutes of mindfulness sometime this week or sometime this weekend. Maybe set that time aside for yourself that you can dedicate to being mindful. Or maybe say like, hey, I'm gonna do one activity mindfully every day. I'm not gonna set aside time, but I'm just gonna make it part of my day to day, and that's okay too. So kind of decide for yourself. Will I do it as part of my daily activities, or will I make time for it each day to be mindful? And there's lots of different types of mindfulness that we can do, in addition to some of the things that we've done today. It can be as simple as just taking some of those deep mindful breaths, maybe saying like, hey, I'm just going to take 10 mindful breaths every time, I wake up in the morning or before lunch or before I go to work in the car, whenever is a good time for you. Set that time aside. And also kind of keep in mind too, although it's helpful to be mindful when things are busy and loud and, maybe at work when people are talking and there's a lot going on, but sometimes we want to practice mindfulness when it's quiet too. And when we can practice when it's a little bit quieter, when we're by ourselves, we can kind of learn how to do it so that when we get into those busy, loud, noisy environments, it can be a little bit easier to practice it, right? It's like kind of like any other skill. We practice it in a certain environment before we actually go out and do it in the moment. And same thing with mindfulness. Maybe practice taking those big, nice, mindful, deep breaths when you're at home, kind of low key. And then, when you start to notice like, hey, I get really overwhelmed at work, I'm going to start doing it at work too. And then you're ready for it. We can do activities throughout the day like mindful eating, which is one of my favorite activities. mindful eating is really just slowing down and trying to taste your food. So same thing like when we were focusing on holding that object in front of us, feeling it, same thing with our food. Slow down, close your eyes, see if you can taste different things in your mouth. See if you can chew your food for, 20 seconds before you swallow it. Oftentimes we only chew our food 3 times before we swallow it, and we don't really get to experience it. So, maybe just try like extending the amount of time that the food is in your mouth and see what you notice. Maybe you notice different textures or tastes or experiences as you eat the food and chew it. And, it helps to slow down a little bit. Mindful breathing is a perfect activity to do, like I said, anytime, anywhere. Another one that I also really enjoy is mindful walking. Going for a walk, whether it be outside in your community, or even just in your house, kind of walking around, if you can do like a lap around your house somehow, and just try and notice things that you've never noticed before. You can walk with music playing and focus on the music, but see if you can notice different sounds, different maybe temperatures where you're walking, different things that you've never seen before. And, maybe pick out 5 things you've never seen or heard before, but really focus again on those things. That's the thing with mindfulness. It does have to be very intentional. We really have to focus that attention and intention on noticing those things. So, making those very specific goals, like I'm going to notice 5 things, or I'm going to try and smell 5 different things, whatever it might be. We kind of want to set those goals for ourselves, which I know sounds a little funny, but when we have something to work towards, it helps a little bit more. So just to kind of review, again, mindfulness is the practice of becoming aware of what's going on right here, right now, taking it all in and just letting it be there without judging it. And this can be really helpful, like I said, because we can notice the difference between our thoughts and our feelings and what's really real. It also allows us to improve our concentration, our memory, our attention, and it allows us to enjoy the things that are going on right in front of us and take more of it in. So, continue to practice mindfulness. Find what works for you. There's a lot of apps that you can download or YouTube videos that have guided mindfulness activities or meditations. And, find something that you enjoy and that clicks for you. Some might not. That's also okay. But, once you find that thing, go for it and just really try and integrate mindfulness into your daily life. Like I said, it can be fun to do it with a friend, with a buddy, with whoever, might want to do it with you, and see how it can help you. So yeah, I think that brings me to the end of my spiel.
This is Christine, and we do have some time for questions, comments, and contributions. So again, speaking up and speaking out, whether it's through the chat or taking yourself off of mute. And if you'd like to share a question, comment, or contribution with Jessica and the rest of us who have gathered here today to practice mindfulness, go ahead and jump right in. The water's fine.
You did awesome.
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yep, I agree. So this is Jason again. Thank you, Jessica. This was very helpful, and it's really great. Quick question I have is, I'm glad that you mentioned opportunities to find maybe YouTube videos on mindfulness. Is there suggestions on like keywords that we could use to help to find really good like background music or things that would be helpful?
Yeah. So sometimes, when I look up mindful music, I know that there are, like on Spotify, that's what I use a lot. There are a lot of mindfulness playlists. So I might type in like mindfulness or meditation playlist and I find some. Same thing on YouTube. I'll often type in like mindful music. And sometimes it's nice too, because you can, if you find like nature sounds relaxing, you can also put like mindful jungle music and it'll have like, mindful music with, nature sounds or something. And or like trickling water, mindful rain music. So yeah, I mean, there's so much out there, and if you go on YouTube and just type in like mindful music, meditation music, there's lots of good stuff.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I just wanted to check in is like something that I struggle with, or I think a little speed bump in my own brain is that I think of mindfulness. It's like, oh, I need to invest a chunk of time.
Mm-hmm.
And really, in terms of practicing mindfulness, I know, and I appreciate you several times reminding us that it's all individual and it's all up to what works for us. But is it important to like commit to a certain time, or does it take long, or can it be short?
Yeah, it can definitely be short. I mean, I for one, I know I can't carve out that much time intentionally for my day for mindfulness practice. You know, and I think once, you know, you find kind of what works for you, it kind of becomes part of your day to day. For me personally, it's going to the gym in the morning. That's when I'm able to be the most mindful because my email's not blowing up yet. And, you know, I have to focus on, you know, certain activities that I'm doing or weights that I'm lifting, or I might hurt myself. So that's kind of the time that I take to be mindful in my own way. And then I also take time, you know, in the evening, I put my phone on do not disturb, and typically I'll put on some music as I'm getting ready for bed, and, you know, just kind of do a check-in with myself. So, I mean, yeah, if you're able to and enjoy putting 30 minutes aside couple times a week, then wonderful. But I mean, even just like taking those 10 deep breaths, checking in from time to time is wonderful as well. Yeah, it's kind of fun to like play around too and see like, okay, I couldn't stay mindful for 30 minutes. My mind really started to wander, you know, and if you ever get into that space where you're like, okay, I'm going to take 15 minutes to be mindful, and you notice like, oh, that's too much time. Now I'm not doing work and I'm worrying about doing work. Then, you know, maybe see like morning versus night versus at work, at, you know, in the car, whatever. So it's a really kind of a fun thing to play around and see when and how long and what works.
Great, that's our help. Thank you so much.
All right, in the last few minutes, if anybody has any questions, comments, or contributions that they'd like to share, go ahead and take yourself off of mute, speak them out, or type them into the chat box. We did get from Tara. So cool. Thanks, Jessica. And Molly, thank you. Hope to see you again soon as well.
I
Yeah,
like
and
the
I'm gonna see
mindful.
Tara tomorrow.
Great, great.
That's not great for me. She's a pain sometimes.
Okay, well, thank you, Molly. I hope that seeing Tara tomorrow isn't a pain, but it is rather a fun experience for you and for Tara. And Adam, you were saying?
Oh yeah, I was just talking about mindful and mindful, the two charts. I really liked how interesting they were.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a very visual person myself, and sometimes seeing it that way helps me and kind of reminds me like, okay, it's sometimes my brain gets to this point and I need it to be here. And you know, that's also kind of a nice way to even like do a check-in with your own brain, like, okay, if I'm going to draw myself out, if I'm this little stick figure, what's in my little thought bubble, you know? And sometimes even, you know, just taking that second to step back and see like, okay, what's going on up here right now? Like, all right, well, I know I'm worrying about all the things that I didn't do yesterday, and I have a pile of dishes in the sink, and oh, did I put my laundry in the dryer yet? Like, oh, I got to do that. You know, sometimes like even just taking that moment and like drawing it out or visualizing it to yourself of like, okay, there's a lot going on and I'm just trying to focus on this Zoom. You know, sometimes like taking that moment, checking in, seeing what all is full in our brain can help us, like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take a moment. I'm gonna give me a moment and try and get to the person on the right and notice the flowers and the sunshine and things like that. Yeah.
Well, before we ask Jajan to close us out, I just want to remind everyone that next month's Healthy Living Chit Chat will be held on Tuesday, September 14th. So mark your calendars and plan to join us. And if you aren't able to join us, no worries. We will record our Healthy Living Chit Chat and we will put it not only on our Facebook page, we will also post the recording on our website, and we will share it in our Alliance newsletter.
Great, thank you, Christine. And yeah, this was a wonderful session. It was, thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Jessica, again, for a wonderful mindfulness lesson and refresher, and the importance for us to focus on the here and now, and giving us some tools to practice. And I love what you said earlier about how practice is progress. I think I'm going to adopt that moving forward for myself, because I think that is important. That's better than being perfect. So yes, again, on behalf of myself and the Alliance staff and everybody, thank you all for joining us. And as Christine said, hope you can come back next month on the 14th for our next monthly chit chat. Take care, everybody.